And it's great to be back. This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com, where you can find the latest blogs, podcast, and, of course, our Twitter feed and Facebook feed. I'm alone because usually I'm looking across the table where my tag team partner, Rich Valdez, is usually here, but he's not. He's celebrating with family, family event. I'm really happy for his son getting engaged and all the above. So I wish the Valdez family nothing but the best. Big shout out to, hold on, I think my phone is ringing, and that is so unprofessional. But big shout out to Brian, engineer, who's going to be with us tonight as he's with us every night. And there's a number that's calling me, and I'm not sure the reason why, because I gave them the right number to call. So we shall see. But tonight's show, a lot of things going on in the world. We'll get into Helsinki. We'll get into a little bit of the World Cup. We'll talk about Manny Pacquio. We'll talk about ESPN Plus. We might even talk about Facebook and its Infowars problems. Second part of the show, we're going to have my buddy Shawn Armor. You've heard him before, True Armor, on our podcast. And Shawn kind of brings that realness. It's a little rough and around the edges for some, but it's what you need to hear. Yeah, that's the way I feel about that. A couple other things that we're going to be talking about. The Athletic. We're also going to be talking about, well, you know what? While we're here, I'll talk about, oh, now I know why my phone was ringing. It's the Domino's guy at my house right now because it's Extreme Rules tonight. So once I get out of here, I'm going to go home and watch a little WWE. And I'm not afraid to say that, okay, people? You know, yeah, I still watch wrestling. I watch it with my son. But next week also we have Comic-Con, which is coming up. So we might even touch base on some expectations. I think that's one of the big events of the year. And one of the events that I know I want to attend is, well, not per se Comic-Con this year, but next year in January, I'm going to go to CES. So I'm going to start the bandwagon up to get to CES, get that approved at the household for me to disappear for a few days. But as you know, at Late Night Parents, our radio show and podcasts and blogs, we talk about the latest and greatest in sports, parenting, technology, education, and we tend to talk with a lot of entrepreneurs and inventors. Someone that I've been, the Strictly Briks team, we've been going back and forth a little bit. Well, the PR team to nail down a day and a time. But I think tonight we'll get the opportunity to speak to Mr. Brian Semling. I think he's in the queue to talk about Strictly Briks. Brian, how you doing?
Ted, I'm here. How are you? Doing well.
Pretty good, pretty good. Oh, so Brian, I got to tell you, you have the greatest PR team, and they are like stormtroopers. They wouldn't even let you talk to me beforehand. I mean, so I guess we're going to have a great conversation tonight.
Sounds good.
So, Brian, without further ado, give us some background on Strictly Briks.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started Strictly Briks about 3.5 years ago, and to give a little context, I've got kids who are growing up, but they were 4 and 7 at the time, and they love Lego and other bricks. And we started to realize, we've been in the toy industry for over 20 years, but we started Strictly Briks 3.5 years ago, and we realized that Lego and Mega Bloks and others were doing a great job with model making kits and just tons of licensed products. And what we wanted to do was to get kids, to encourage kids to get into creative play. And so we started with all of our products are compatible with the leading brands, but we wanted to offer colors of base plates in 36 different colors, different shapes and sizes, and we made them stackable so that they could be functional as bricks as well. So that we could, so for example, one of our first unique products was a brick tower with our stacker pieces that you could build vertically with, and combining with other toys. So for example, not just bricks, but action figures and cars and Shopkins and all sorts of toys that kids already own. And over the last several years, we've wanted to innovate and pioneer to to help kids build in a new way and really emphasize creative play to let them build and use their imaginations, which is kind of more reminiscent to building with bricks back in the 80s when I grew up.
Gotcha. So Brian, tell me, for your product, for Strictly Briks, what's the age range that you're targeting?
Target age would be 3 to 12.
Okay.
And really, bricks can be for all ages. I mean, there's plenty of adult fans as well, but 3 to 12 is really going to be the target range. And so we've got two parts of our line: Big Bricks, which is compatible with the with like the Duplo or some of the larger Mega Block series, and then the classic size, which would be more. So the Big Bricks would be like ages 3 to 6, and classic size would be more ages, say, 5 to 12 or so. Yeah.
Brian, I noticed you mentioned before one of your missions is to encourage creative play and impact kids by developing innovative brick construction toys. But I will tell you one thing that's important that I've noticed, and what drew me to your product, was the fact that you have a product that doesn't involve a screen, that doesn't involve your son or your daughter or whomever sitting in front of a screen on a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One or all the above. And I think that's one piece of when we were kids that we've had that the kids today don't have.
Yeah, that's for sure. Like we obviously took it for granted, and there's nothing wrong with digital, but when digital takes over, then there's something missing, right? That's kind of the tactile, actually using your hands to build something, to create, to tear it apart, build it up, destroy it, try again. Absolutely. So that is that is definitely part of our mission as well, is getting kids to play, and to play in the physical world, kind of the offline world, if you will.
So Brian, tell us about some of the family and values within Strictly Briks.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are 100% a family business. So my wife is the photographer. My kids, Sony and Eric, are the models for all of our products. So if you go to our website, strictlybriks.com, or Amazon or YouTube, and you see a couple of kids playing with the products, Sony is now 11 and Eric is now 8. So their faces are everywhere. Not only that, they also invented our only game. We're coming out with some more games, but our current only game, and that's Brickbuster, and that won an Oppenheim Platinum Award last year and was featured on the Black Friday segment on the Today Show for Christmas toys. So we definitely have, from myself to my wife and kids, fully engaged in the business, along with a staff of about 15 or so other people on our team that aren't family members. But yeah, in our, family is definitely a very. I mean, if it wasn't for having little kids, it's entirely possible that we wouldn't have started Strictly Briks, because it was just kind of you kind of match where you're at a point in life with business, and so yeah, absolutely.
So I will tell you this much: I did visit the site. Hey, I do want to tell you, because by trade I'm an IT professional. I noticed you added the secure layer to your website. So when you go to your website now, HTTPS, Strictly Briks, it's a happy smiley face. So I want to tell you, good job on that one with securing the site.
You bet. Thank you.
Also, I will tell you, so your products are educational. Tell me who supports your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. So we realized fairly early on that that teachers and educators were really a large part our audience, and that got us to, so, and when we've talked to teachers and administrators and so forth, and people just kind of, therapists, from speech therapists to play therapists, et cetera, their eyes light up. They love what they see, and so we certainly started from the standpoint of encouraging creative play and generally thinking of our products as fun, which they are, but they're also educational, which we're getting a tremendous amount of positive feedback in that regards, and a lot of schools, teachers, educators, therapists, and so forth, just really encouraging us with the different things that we're doing, and a lot of that is because we're focusing on the creative play, and we've created a number of new, different, unique products that that are different from the other brick companies out there. We've focused on innovation. We've filed for over a dozen utility patent applications and about 20 or so design patent applications. So we're trying to push things forward so that there's, to allow kids to build in new ways and to kind of focus on them as the creative drivers.
So I can guess that you're available in the U.S. What other international marketplaces could we find Strictly Briks?
Absolutely. So we are in Canada on Amazon.ca and soon to be on a number of other websites in Canada and some brick and mortar in Europe. We're in the different Amazon markets there, as well as just beginning to get into brick and mortar and offline channels in Europe. We just opened in Amazon Japan within the last month, and we'll be in Amazon Australia by the fourth quarter. So a lot of customers in Europe, of course, North America. You heard me mention Japan and Australia. Our products are just coming online through a distributor in India, and we're getting started in Central America. So really, literally, we started in the U.S. 3.5 years ago, but fairly quickly moved to the various international Amazon markets and are now moving off of Amazon in those markets. So becoming available, in more and more parts of the world.
So tell me this much, Brian. If I wanted to go strictly to your website to purchase, or is it available for purchase? Do you have like your merchandise store set up, or do I have to?
Yes.
Do I have to go to Amazon?
Yep. No, absolutely. You could do either one. So come to our website and explore and check out our pictures and videos and get to know our brand, and absolutely place an order with us. And, if you find yourself on Amazon and it's convenient to place an order there, by all means, we're on Amazon as well. One thing that's probably important for the audience as they are potentially looking for our products, just the spelling. Strictly is the common spelling of
Yes.
Strictly, Strictly, and then Briks is a little bit more edgy. We dropped the C, so Briks, instead of the standard spelling of Briks.
Gotcha. So Brian, one more time, I want you to plug your website.
StrictlyBriks.com.
All right.
Absolutely.
And that's without the C. And
That is.
if any of our listeners wanted to get in contact with you, whether it's social media or through email, what's the best ways they can do that?
Yeah, whatever's easiest for them. So absolutely. Of course, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest accounts, and so they could contact us through any of those methods, and of course also by email. So our normal inbox would be info@strictlybriks.com, and if someone wanted to reach out to me directly, Brian@strictlybriks.com, BRIAN, would be certainly no problem as well.
Hey, Brian, I want to thank you so much for joining Late Night Parents, and we will be in touch in a couple of months, and we'll touch back and see where your product is, and as we get ready to get into the fall and we get ready for the holiday season.
Well, fantastic, Ted. We really appreciate it. Thanks for all your help here, and whenever you're up for another discussion, you just let us know, and that sounds great. We will have some new things launching during the fourth quarter, and that might be a good time
That sounds great.
to get into some of that. You have a good evening.
You too. Let's stay in touch.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So that was my good friend Brian Semling from Strictly Briks. if you get a chance to go to the website, it's Strictly, and Briks is spelled BRIKS.com. Give it a, give it a look. Give it a look. You might like it. If you're a big fan of Legos, and not that I am not a big fan of screens, but there's a certain time when you need to kind of push back from the screens a little bit. I mean, it's great, the virtual interaction with, as you watch your son and his or her friends online, it's great. But getting back to that old time of, hey, I'm heading over to my buddy's house to go and we're going to play whatever. Hang on one second as we do this. So as we wait for, this is latenightparents.com, and as we wait for our next guest, I want to tell you guys, now how do I say this? And I don't want to offend anyone. So most of the way we consume media and we consume content, whether it's video, whether it's online, or whether it's print, it's usually, as is. Our physical newspapers have turned into e-newspapers. And what I've been noticing is on some of my favorite sites, and in your favorite sites, there's been something called like a paywall installed. So, and when you say the word paywall, you sit here and say, well, you go to the New York Times and you like reading it, and if you don't subscribe to it, you get 10 reads a month, 10 articles a month. Same thing with Wall Street Journal and, a lot of these other sites, Sports Business Journal. So I want to let you know there's a site that I subscribed to just recently, believe it or not, called theathletic.com. Not promoting anything for them. I was not compensated or anything else like that. But I will tell you this much. I was, most of the writers, some of the sports journalists that I know have moved over to that website. Some of your favorite sports journalists have moved over there. So what I did this past week, I actually broke down and I subscribed annually to The Athletic. Because, you get to the point where you go to an article and you get to read the first 100 words, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, oh, well, that article was great. I'm not sure what else is going on. But I got to tell you, it was so far it's been worth my, I use my EDU account. So it's, $29.99. And I got to tell you, I really appreciate it. On top of that, I think our next guest is in the building. Some will call him True Armor. I call him Shawn Armor. But he's going to be joining us for the rest of the show. Shawn, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. I was just talking about a subscription website that I joined called The Athletic. It's like I said before, it's a paywall site. Not sure if you heard, but nowadays, some of these websites, they want you to pay to read the content. And, for the most part, we buck. But this was a site that I paid for. And I actually like the content. I like the journalist. And it's just good,
Yo, Fizz, I'm losing you, man.
You lost me?
Yeah, okay, I can hear you now. You were drifting off.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure the mic is as clear and I turn everything up, because there's a couple of things I wanted to discuss with you, Shawn. Number one, I will tell you is, well, one thing you don't know is tonight, guess who's going to be available on Extreme Rules? Extreme Rules is a WWE pay-per-view. None other than Hulk Hogan.
Get out of here. I thought he was banned.
I thought he was banned too, but he's back. It's been about 2 years, and they slapped him on his wrist, and now he's back.
Well, you know what? American people love a second chance?
Yes.
A second act, or whatever it is?
Totally. But I wanted to jump in with you on a couple of our topics, but I wanted to talk first and foremost about the podcast you do weekly. So why don't you give us a quick read or a quick listen to your podcast, the name of it, what you talk about, all the above.
Well, the name of the podcast is Armor InterGalactic. We're about 10 in, I guess, and we talk about everything and how that relates to, or at least how we as black folks should view it. You know what I mean? So I had this conversation with a friend of mine, which we're both, I would used to be a liberal. We're supposedly both liberal-minded, and we kept coming up with opposite conclusions. So something was telling me that, maybe white liberals and black liberals see these things differently. So that was part of the impetus of it. And I generally talk about it with two younger people, 20 years younger than I am, I want to say 28 and 30. Just because that age gap, while I'm sitting here going, that's not music, this is music, they can sort of calm me down. And it works in the opposite way as well. They don't follow a lot of politics, and I follow enough to let them know what they should be looking for and what's coming down the line if this thing or that thing comes to fruition like some people want it to, or this thing or that thing that's good for you does not come to fruition. So yeah, that's generally the sense of I'm trying to get it all, cross my T's and dot my I's, but like I said, we're like 10 episodes in, so you might have to get me to episode 12.
Hey, we're going to switch topics. This is Late Night Parents with special guest Shawn Armor. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. There was a boxing match on last night, and per se, a lot of people didn't get a chance to see it. Manny Pacquiao, the great Manny Pacquiao, scored a big TKO last night in Malaysia, and it was only available on ESPN Plus. So,
and what is ESPN Plus?
It's their cash grab at their digital app that they will make only exclusive products or content available because they want your $4.99 a month or $5.99 a month, whatever it is.
Right.
Great boxing match. A lot of people will say, "Oh, he's washed." I'm not, subscribing to ESPN, but I will tell you this much.
Yeah.
I'm for it because, hey, everyone's got to generate revenue.
Right.
But a match like that, I think, should have just been on regular ESPN because they had all the pre-matches on regular ESPN, and then they turn around and boom, it's not available. You can see the feed just changed. So you're sitting there, you're just like, well, the match itself, most of the matches that took place last night were in America, but the Pacquiao match took place in Malaysia. And then as the deeper that you go into it, you find out that, he owes the IRS $28+ million. And I'm guessing that's because of the match he had with Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
And
I'm losing you a little bit here, Biz.
Yeah, the tax wasn't, I guess the tax wasn't paid. I'm not sure.
Oh.
So
this is Pacquiao?
Yeah, this is Pacquiao. Pacquiao,
who's not even an American citizen, got in trouble with the American IRS.
Right, because he made money in a match that he fought in Las Vegas. He made,
he thought he was never going to be back there. He didn't have to.
He hasn't been back.
Right.
He hasn't been back.
Yeah.
So I will say, this is another case of, yes, subscription services are great. Yes, you want to support as many as you can, but it comes down to it. Financially, can you support?
No, everybody can't have a subscription service. Just like, everybody can't. I don't know. Every restaurant can't be 5 stars. Some people are good at this, and other people throw up their their tent, to get into this business. But the reason why we like some of these is because they made our life easier and better, and they did it in a way. I mean, before Amazon, actually Amazon may have been the first to do this essentially garage sale on the internet. But, they've been around long enough to work out the kinks. People like Apple, companies like Apple have enough money where the kinks are not an obstacle. You can just keep restarting it and hire away talent and all this. But, yeah, man, how many of these do you need? I mean, you got Hulu, you got Netflix, you got Amazon Prime. I mean, generally, great organizations get started by three great people, and great companies generally have 2 and 3 players, right? So Coke is the premier, Pepsi's number 2, and I think somewhere in the back there's like 3 or 4 people trying to be like number 3, like RC Cola and Seagram's and all this. Same thing with the burger joints, right? I think it's McDonald's, then it's Burger King, then there's a whole host of like Wendy's and all these others trying to jockey for, even with the pizza this week, right?
Oh.
Now you had 2, now you got 1. It looks like Papa John's, which I gave up on like 4 years ago after what they said about Obama. And then I felt like I made the right decision when they came out against the kneeling thing. And now I'm this, and I'm like, wow, who didn't see these bullets fired out this gun, So it's that. It's like Pizza Hut, it's Papa John's, and then there's Domino's, right? So there's always like 3 good places in the mix. Once you glut the place, then you're going to get one guy, maybe number 2 guy swallows up some of the better, smaller operations. But generally, I think what you're going to get is a lot of the same thing. Everything on the Disney catalog will be sold to Hulu and Netflix and something else. So it's not. If you have Hulu and Netflix, and out of 100 movies, let's say 75 of these movies are on both of these channels, you're really paying prime money for 25 movies, essentially, right?
Yeah.
25 different movies on each outlet. So this is where I'm at. If you go back to our topic, if you keep opening up specialty outlets, yeah, I want sports, but now you got some guys boxing in New York, you got one guy boxing in Malaysia. I'm wondering why don't I just catch this on the web, like on YouTube or something, have a friend send it to me. And save what is this going for now? 10, 15, $20 a month per person?
No, it's ESPN Plus is a little bit cheaper, but I do get your gist of where you're going with that, because
right. Because even if it's the $8 here, you add that up with your Hulu and your Netflix and your like I said, Amazon Prime, and before you know it, you're back to, it's like you didn't cut the cord in the first place. And this is an outgrowth of that, right? Cutting the cord, essentially, all these guys trying to,
of course,
get interested, right?
Of course, but depending on the packages, and I saw a really great summary of it, where if your standard cable package, which gave you triple play, is $175, or if you cut the cord and you're going with all these different services, and you of course you're going to require internet, you could spend almost that much that way. So it's kind of like you're not saving your money. You're not. I mean, I guess you have to be the right consumer. You have to be an educated consumer in what you're going to do. I don't see a reason why you would have multiple services. It's
I can't come up with a reason either.
No, it's either apples or it's going to be oranges.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you might need a Disney Channel for young, small children, but once their kids are like 10, you don't need this.
They're gone. They're gone.
Exactly.
And since we both have kids, both of our kids, before we blinked our eyes, they were on YouTube.
Right.
I mean, my son, today, he doesn't spend any time watching regular TV.
Right.
Total YouTube.
That's true.
So I just want to go back to your podcast, Armor InterGalactic. So you do it with two millennials.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure sometimes you're in left field and they're in right field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you notice that with most topics, or is there ever a point where you guys are right there together with each other?
Well, how can I phrase this? I'm sort of insistent on them following some protocols, right? So, and it works in vice versa. So when it's music and pop culture and R&B and like this Migos stuff, and I'm like, is this good? You know, they clear me in. When there's millennial, how do you even call it? It's not even like, I guess it is. It's not negative for you because it's not negative to them, but like people they like get into it, like this Drake and Pusha T thing.
Right.
You know, they tell me who Pusha T is and why Drake is or is not valid, and they do this for me, and I don't argue that because I don't know. This is their purview. But when we kick off talking about politics and the history of politics, I calm them down, right? It's like, unless you can, because what happens is they talk a lot out of their feelings, like, and
don't
it's a lot of, I feel this way about it, and I don't argue that. I'm like, yeah, you can feel that way, but these are the facts of the land, and people don't care how you feel, right? So when we do this, it's like the police shootings and how you should approach certain situations, how young black men are getting straight robbed. Not all the bad guys are out in the world anymore. Some of them are in your neighborhood. And what is being practiced is bad practices for black people in general, right? And it's that. So those kind of things ebb and flow because there's no right or wrong answer, and they're sort of in, I want to say in the zeitgeist of it, right? They're 30, they should be getting married and finding women and settling down, and they're in the cut of it. And I'm beyond the cut of it. I've been through that valley, and you know what I mean? So me trying to give them things to look out for, essentially where I'm at with them, and them telling me essentially cool and interesting things in the landscape that I've always enjoyed. But as you get older, you kind of like your watch slips a little bit, right? So before you know it, you're a second or two behind, then you're 5 minutes behind, then you're half an hour behind, because this is the way it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to stay in the pocket. So yeah, it's that kind of weird. Let's get chew up on some urban pop, because the fact I'll wrap this up. The hope of my channel is black unity, in the sense that people show up and talk about things that week that matters essentially to black folk. Some laughing, some joking, have a beer, and then move on. We're not preachy about it, but at the same time, a really bad practice that destroys you and yours down the line will get talked about. And you will have to decide. I mean, you don't have to stand up there and declare, but as you listen, you'll go, am I part of this problem? Am I for this problem? I asked my nephew this past week, if there was a black unity group and the guy showed up and he said, hey, I'll ask you this, all right, so here I am. I show up at your door, right? Mm-hmm. And you have some love for me because you know me from a ways ago, so I'm not some flake. And I go, hey, yo, man, this group does X, Y, and Z. And you go, what? No group does that. I'm like, no, this group does that. I asked them, what would those things be that you would have to join that group, right? So if someone showed up and was like, man, we do art and we mess with money, brokerage firms and da-da-da, we teach you all that stuff, you got to come down. I'd be down there tomorrow. my nephew and T, I noticed this about them. You give them a story like that, what would you do? They have to ask you 10 questions before they can answer it, right? So essentially what they're doing is they're hedging their bets. So it's like, wait. Any group that I want, not any group that I want, in this group that wants me, they have these things that I can just not say no to. Okay. What are these things? I'm asking you what these things are. You know, it's just kind of like, I believe that we as a group of people, yeah, we make interesting music and we're comfortable in those areas. But outside of those areas, we are tight and constricted, and it's sort of pushed into the culture from slavery. So yeah, you'll see that guy and laugh at him for trying to do stand-up or rap or go to college and get a PhD and this, that, the other thing. So-and-so thinks he's boozy, blah, 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 blah. But once he gets there and accomplishes that, then you're really proud of him. But getting from point A to point J, not even Z, is fraught in the community with a lot of naysayers happy to watch you slip and stumble, and no one looking to give you a hand up. And then, you know, that doesn't encourage you to come back to the community. You're like, oh, I got out, and you laughed at me as I was getting out. To hell with all of you. You know what I mean? So the idea is, don't be so happy to be happy to watch someone slip, under the waves, because in this environment, the people who are slipping under the wave look like you. They will be your sons and your daughters, and at this point, we really need to do something about it, or at least, like I tell them, at least think about it. And often enough that it's sort of just low grade in the back of your mind. I don't ask anybody to march or donate money or read anything. I'm just, once you get comfortable with the idea, and we're all there anyway. People keep saying that we're not a monolith, and I keep saying that we are, because the same thing always outraged us, and we want change. But then it becomes, you know, who the cool kids are, who's in charge of this. So yeah, it's. I want to say that the goal is to get the listener to obviously come back, but to also take an extra push in whatever way that is, to kind of like, even if that's, man, I'm gonna smack this dude in the mouth. You know what? I caught that podcast. I'm gonna give him a skate. You know what I mean? Whatever it is that you give, just half an inch more to that dude. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying put yourself at risk, you know, any of this, because I get scenarios like that where it's like, I'm not gonna be punched in the face. It's like nobody say anything about punching anybody in the face. You know, and people jump to their own weird conclusion when you off. You know, so it's that, and hopefully my podcast will tell you some good music, tell you some good movies, tell you some interesting story about your homies and trips, but also have you think, if there was a group, what would they have that would be irresistible to me? I know some people it's childcare, you know, if they had a childcare situation, some after school, some little league, whatever that is. I think we need that in the community. And the problem is there's enough money now in these communities, but nobody ever comes back.
Gotcha.
And people need to come back. Did I go on a little too long?
No. What's the best way to consume your podcast? I mean, when is it available? How do you do it? That type of stuff.
Right. Okay. I'm on YouTube at Truest Armor. I'm on Twitter as True Armor. And we do it. It was every Friday. Now I'm thinking about swapping out to every Tuesday. Every Tuesday, Truest Armor on YouTube. Also, Spreaker. This should be a little more organized when I give out these.
No, it's okay.
Like I said, I'm 10 in. So like everything is Truest Armor, Armor InterGalactic, and
So when I do a search for Armor InterGalactic?
It's the name of the podcast is Armor InterGalactic. The name of the website is on YouTube is True S Armor.
Okay.
And,
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's while I'm running it under my name, it's really Armor InterGalactic.
Okay.
And like I hopefully will have that fixed by the 15th episode. But yeah, so.
Hey, I do have a question for you, and
yeah.
I'm not sure if this is a question that you would pose the millennials on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would say Facebook is its own entity, correct? I mean, anytime you have more than 2.5 billion users,
it's a utility,
right?
At this point.
So the question came out about, Facebook banning certain sites, certain pages. And the question came out, does Facebook have an Infowars page? Problem. Infowars, Alex Jones, everyone knows it. The page itself has about 1 million or so likes or followers or all the above. Yeah. But does Facebook toe the line? Because I think right now what they do is they're looking at a page like Infowars and they're demoting when either a video or a post is put up. Are they towing the line? Because in your mind, per se, there could be 1 million different pages. Does Facebook really want to get into the market of, hey, this site does hate speech, this site does propaganda, this site does this? Or are they more into, hey, it's free, it's available, it's content?
Well, here's the way I see this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook has a cancer, right? But it's not going to cut the cancer out. So you know that Infowars deals in, how can I say this, deals in interesting facts. I would call their facts dubious and false, but that's just me. However, they're not on my platform.
Right.
If you, as the runners of the integrity of Facebook, you have to tell Zuckerberg to get rid of this. I don't know why he wouldn't. They have 1 million people. My whole position is, so what? Your platform is 1 billion, 2 billion people. You know what I mean? So that's like saying you can't throw him out of the club. He's got 3 friends, but the club has 500 people in it. You know what I mean? You're not going to miss that 1 million or 2. Granted, you might exercise that 1 million or 2 to do what? Say mean things? Well, they're not going to form Al Qaeda or launch a war. They're a propaganda machine against the truth, So you have to do something about them. So, I understand that they're not going to get rid of them. They're just going to they put them in a category as CNN and all these other news.
Yeah, which I don't understand, because if you notice, if you watch closely, Facebook is doing all different types of town halls, physical and virtual, where they're trying to combat fake news. Okay?
Right.
But at the same time, you have sites or you have pages up there within your product. I just think it's messy. I think it's really messy, and you really have to get a czar to get in there, or a czar and their own specific team, a content development team, to go through and rate each and every page.
But that's impossible.
It's totally impossible.
You would need 1 million people.
Correct. This is no different when
this is a beast that has grown too big to cage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know what they do. I would, and granted, I'm flippantly saying I would shut them down. But there are First Amendment issues here, right?
Correct.
You can then say, oh, it's not a public utility, it's a private platform. We can serve who we we choose. We're not a political thing, but I don't know. Like, this goes back to the conversation we had a few months ago about who is supposed to police your content. Yes, it is your content on their platform, but their platform has no locks or doors or windows in this apparatus, so anybody can wander in and out. And they were asking you to put in doors and windows and locks to keep your information safe on Facebook. And I remember telling you, how are you going to put this in the hands of the people? That's sort of like going, wow, there's crime and criminality out there. It's the purge. So, get a gun and lock this, look after yourself. But not just one day a year. It's like that's your life now. You provide your own police services and your own medical services. It's the government asking you to do that, which would be ridiculous. And here we are, all this while later, not even all this while, 4 months or so, and we're back with these guys who set up essentially this cash cow and no infrastructure to make sure the cow doesn't kick the lantern over and burn the barn down. I think the people who are most affected by this, who don't have any say in it, and I think the people who are connected to the core of this thing, the billionaires and the politicians, they don't care, because they're sort of, you'd have to be extra stupid to hack a politician, because then you have the government all over you. But, you'd be fine if you hacked Joe Blow or, and that's where we're at. His apparatus, I'm sure his stuff is behind lock and key.
Yes.
But in his same apparatus, you and me, we have to police our own stuff and perpetually keep forgiving and
I just think
try
it's
to suss out what their business model is if they won't get rid of what I would refer to, in just my opinion, as liars on your platform. After a presidential election where people were targeted with lies to keep them from voting, to malign their vote, to change, to tell them to vote on the wrong day, to tell them that Hillary Clinton was having babies raped in a pizza parlor, which is still one of those things that I hear that and I'm like, someone is doing 2 years in jail because they actually got activated on this wildness. So,
right.
It's.
I got to jump in here and say this is no different than when a few months ago.
I'm losing you again.
This is no different than from a few months ago when people were committing crimes on Facebook Live. And the answer is, hey, we're going to hire 3,000 people and they're going to monitor. And I just, the math in my head, I had a problem with it.
Yeah.
In my head, I said 3,000 people, 2.5 billion accounts. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
I mean, how are you going to stop that? You know what?
Good question.
If I told you right now I'm going to run downstairs and shoot my neighbor, or run upstairs and shoot the whoever's upstairs, right? By the time you got off the phone and did your civic duty, and called the cops, so-and-so told me he was going to hurt somebody. And by the time the cops got there, if the cops called Facebook Live to tell them to shut up the feed, it would take them 20 minutes. My client would be up and done and posted and running for at least 2 hours. And that is if they're on their game. Some of this stuff is up there for 2 days and 3 days and a week before.
And it's shared 20 different places.
In the mind that
200,000 different places.
And they go, oh, this guy did this crime on Facebook. Let's take it down. Well, I mean, because you got to do them one by one. What you're essentially doing is picking burrs out of, your dog's skin. You ever get a dog run through a thicket patch? It's that kind of one by one, each one hurts. But meanwhile, you have 1 million dogs that you have to do this with, and you got one guy per 1 million dogs, and you have 500 people working for you. So, the problem is in any other workforce, that would be a decent task force to handle the problem. But you're dealing with 2 billion people. So your task force had better be 2 million people. And that's going to be inefficient. So I don't really know how they're going to solve this problem, but man.
Hey, on a much lighter note.
Yeah.
Gotta ask you, how's it going with the golf game?
Man, I pulled those clubs out today. I was watching 2 golf matches today. I was watching the celebrity tournament. And Romo won it. First of all, I was shocked by that.
Nah, I heard he's pretty good.
And I was watching the CBS golf with, I forgot who was playing. But yeah, I was really tempted to drag those clubs out to the.
Gotta go to the driving range, man. Around. You gotta do it. You gotta get into it.
I think that's going to be my next move. I think I actually may. I was thinking about blogging that on this YouTube channel, since I don't always want to talk about politics and openly talk about black community, but I want black dudes to try more things. Like, come golfing with me. I'm pretty sure I suck worse than everybody you know, but we can still have a beer and golf and commune like our ancestors wanted us to, right? So yeah, golf, man. And especially Tiger Woods is back too. So yeah, get my red polo on, my Nike on.
He's back, but I don't think he's doing much.
Well, that's all right. I think I got love for the guy on his second act around.
That's true. Everyone deserves a second act, you said.
Yeah, exactly. And his second act dealt with what? 60s stuff, weed and women. You know what I mean? Not weed, but like drugs and women. So yeah, you don't want your role model to be doing that, but some of these guys were.
Well, you got to realize he's not your role model. So you got to tell your son or your daughter or whomever,
right,
that you're the legal guardian. That
your kids will choose their own role models.
True.
You can give them a pretty good set of rules that they can adjust their role models to, but at the end of the day, they will choose their own role models. And in the hip-hop era, role models mean, the guy with the most money and the most bitches. It has nothing to do with integrity or morality or decency or loyalty or any of these things that, we grew up on, idolizing comic book characters, Superman and, Shaft and, Kennedy, all these people who are supposed to be pillars of whatever. Now, don't have any heroes, which I really don't understand. We're all supposed to emulate somebody, right?
Any thoughts on Helsinki before we close out?
Man, okay. Donald Trump is just the most interesting thing. Here's something about Trump. No one likes Trump, but everyone in Washington is essentially sorority and fraternity brothers and sisters, right? He's cruising in. He's not part of this apparatus. He's not a Washington Democrat or a Washington Republican. He's not a national Democrat or a national Republican. He's just a famous rich guy, right? So used to having servants and handlers do what he bids them to do. So now he's in Congress. Yeah, the Republicans want to win. We'll take anybody. But remember, they did not want him until he crushed, I want to say 30 of them, 15 Democrats, 16 Republicans. So now he's there. They're happy that he's got Republican on his name tag so they can get at least some of what they want. They don't trust him because he's not of them. He's not, like I said, a Washington insider. They're all feeding on the tit of the government, and he isn't. This is one reason why I like him. I don't really understand everything he's doing, but this is one reason why I like him. So he goes off to Helsinki, where he starts off by putting his whole entire foot in the ass of NATO, and he does it sideways. So I'm sitting here going, what? And here's the thing: if you know anything about NATO, if all hell broke loose, all hell breaks loose in Europe. And now we as American boys and girls have to get on our horse and go over there and fight in Europe again. But that was fine 70 years ago. It's not quite the same anymore, so I get Trump saying that. And all the people at the Helsinki thing have the same issue. They're all part of the international system, but they're career politicians. They feed on the pit of government. Some of these people would not be allowed to travel outside of their borders, right? Well, not the NATO people. But they get all these perks as being international politicians, right? The head of NATO essentially runs a government with no people and no army. But he's a head of state, essentially. So all these people are used to, this is how we politicians do things, and he's not of them. He comes in, he smacks them around. He's like, pay your weight, we're paying 4%. A lot of y'all, 23 of the 27 y'all aren't even paying that. They can't argue.
We got to continue this on the podcast because we got to get ready to roll out of here. But, hey, plug your podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I said plug your podcast.
Oh, okay, yes. Truest Armor InterGalactic. Catch me on YouTube. I'm also on Spreaker. And, we talk politics. We try and catch the zeitgeist of what's happening in the week. And we try and put it into a flavor that average folk can deal with. Because, trust me, it's going to affect you. It always affects us first. We're the canaries in the coal mine.
All right.
And even though it's not even black-centric, I would say. Like I said, we talk about everything. But there is an eye to...
Gotcha. Hey, we want to thank you once again for joining the show. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. And we are out of here. See you next week. 2-hour show next week.